My dear wonderful friends, tonight we will explore one of the most powerful yet misunderstood principles in the art of manifestation, the divine law of silence and selective association. Many of you have come to me asking, Neville, why do my manifestations sometimes fail? Or why do things seem to fall apart just when they're about to succeed? Tonight I will share with you a profound truth that will transform your understanding of the law. Let me begin by telling you why silence is not merely the absence of speech, but the very foundation of your creative power. In Scripture we read, "Be still and know that I am God." This stillness, this divine silence, is not a mere suggestion. It is the very secret of creation itself. Consider how God created the world. Did he announce his intentions to anyone? Did he seek validation or approval? No, my dear friends. In the depths of silence, in the quiet of his own being, he spoke the words, "Let there be," and it was done. This is your pattern. This is your blueprint. I remember who came to me in New York. She had been trying to manifest a specific position in her company, a position that seemed impossible to obtain given her current status. She had told everyone about her desire, seeking advice, validation, and support. For months, nothing happened. Then she heard this principle of silence and everything changed. She did something remarkable. She cut off all discussion of her desire. She stopped seeking opinions, stopped announcing her intentions, and most importantly, she went into what I call the sacred silence. Within 3 weeks, not only was she offered the position she desired, but she was offered an even better one she hadn't even imagined possible. You see, when you speak of your desires to others, you are diffusing your creative power. Every time you discuss your intentions, you are releasing the pressure of the creative force that should be building within you. It's like puncturing a balloon before it's fully inflated, the air escapes, and the balloon never reaches its intended form. Let me share with you what I call the law of sacred silence. This law states that every desire has its own gestation period, just as every seed has its own time of growth. When you plant a seed in the ground, do you dig it up every day to check its progress? Do you tell everyone about the seed you've planted and ask their opinion on whether it will grow? Of course not. You plant it in the silence of the earth and let it grow undisturbed. Your desires are spiritual seeds, and your consciousness is the soil in which they grow. Every time you speak of your desires to others, you are essentially digging up your seed to show it to the world. How can it grow if you don't give it the silence it needs to take root? But tonight, I want to take you deeper than you've ever gone before into understanding why cutting all contacts is equally crucial to your manifestation. This is not about isolation, it's about insulation. You must insulate your consciousness from the doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs of others. Consider the story of Noah. Before the flood came, he was instructed to enter the ark and seal it. This is not a historical account, but a psychological drama playing out in consciousness. The ark represents your consciousness, and sealing it represents cutting off contact with all that would disturb your assumption of the wish fulfilled. Many of you maintain relationships and connections that constantly pull you back into old states of consciousness. Try to rise to a new level of being while staying connected to those who know you as you were, not as you desire to be. This is like trying to fly while keeping your feet chained to the ground. Let me tell you about a student of mine who understood this principle perfectly. He desired to move from poverty to wealth, but he realized that his daily associations were keeping him anchored in the consciousness of lack. His friends, though well-meaning, constantly spoke of limitations, of how difficult it was to make money, of how the economy was against them. He made a bold decision. He temporarily cut all contacts that reinforced the old state of poverty consciousness. He didn't do this unkindly or abruptly, but he quietly withdrew from circles that kept him tied to the old state. Instead of spending evenings discussing lack with his usual companions, he went into silence and lived in the assumption of his wish fulfilled. The results were extraordinary. Within 6 months, his entire financial reality transformed. But notice something crucial. He didn't announce his intentions to withdraw. He didn't make declarations about cutting contacts. He simply did it in silence, with the same naturalness with which you would close a door to keep out the cold. Now let me share with you what I call The three chambers of silence. The first chamber is physical silence, the cessation of speaking about your desires. The second chamber is mental silence, the quieting of internal chatter and doubt. The third chamber, and most profound, is spiritual silence, the complete surrender to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Many of you enter the first chamber easily enough. You can stop talking about your desires. Some of you even master the second chamber, controlling your thoughts. But it's the third where the real power lies, and this chamber can only be entered when you've cut the ties that bind you to your old state. Think of Lot's wife in Scripture. She was told not to look back at the city she was leaving. This is not a story about physical geography. It's about consciousness. When you're moving into a new state of being, you cannot keep looking back at the old state or maintaining connections with those who are not old state. Let me tell you about the law of state resonance. Everything and everyone in your life is a reflection of the state you occupy. When you try to enter a new state while maintaining connections with those who resonate with your old state, you create a psychological conflict that prevents your complete transformation. I recall a gentleman in Los Angeles who desired to become a renowned author. He had talent, he had ideas, but he remained stuck in obscurity. Why? Because he kept himself surrounded by people who knew him as a struggling writer. Their very presence in his life kept him anchored to that state of struggle. One day, after hearing these principles, he did something that seemed drastic to others, but was perfectly natural to him. He cut all contacts with his writing group, stopped attending literary gatherings where people complained about how hard it was to get published, and went into complete silence about his work. Instead of discussing his book with others, he lived in the silence of his completed wish. He would walk into bookstores and quietly see his book on the shelves. He would silently feel the weight of his published work in his hands. He stopped seeking validation, stopped asking for opinions, and most importantly, stopped connecting with those who knew him as anything less than a successful author. Here's what you must understand about the power of cutting contacts. It's not about avoiding people. It's about avoiding states. Every person in your life represents a state of consciousness. When you maintain connections with those who know you in your old state, you're making it infinitely harder to fully occupy your new state. Consider the biblical instruction, come out from among them and be ye separate. This is not about physical separation, but about separating yourself from states that contradict your desire. When you truly understand this, you'll see why maintaining certain contacts keeps you bound to states you're trying to leave. Let me introduce you to what I call the principle of state solidarity. This principle states that your consciousness naturally seeks alignment with the predominant consciousness of those around you. This is why being around people who knew you in your old state makes it challenging to maintain your new assumption. Think of it like tuning a radio. You're trying to tune into the frequency of your desire, but the old contacts in your life keep pulling the dial back to the old frequency. The solution is not to fight against this pulling. The solution is to remove yourself from the range of the old frequency entirely. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, isn't it selfish to cut contacts with people? Let me tell you something profound. You're not cutting contact with people. You're cutting contact with states. When you successfully establish yourself in your new state, you'll find that some of these people will either transform with you or naturally fall away. Let me share with you what I call the law of silent transformation. When a caterpillar enters its cocoon, it doesn't announce its transformation. It doesn't seek approval from other caterpillars. It doesn't maintain connections with its caterpillar life. In perfect silence, in complete isolation, it undergoes its magnificent transformation. This is your pattern. When you're transforming into a new state of consciousness, you must enter your own psychological cocoon. This is why silence and cutting contacts are not just helpful suggestions. They are spiritual imperatives. I remember a woman in my New York lectures who desired marriage. She had been dating for years, constantly discussing her relationships with friends, always seeking advice, always maintaining connections with people who knew her as the single friend. She was constantly in what I call the state of seeking. After learning these principles, She did something revolutionary. She cut all contacts with her dating circles, stopped discussing relationships entirely, and withdrew from the constant social commentary about her love life. Instead, she went into complete silence and lived in the assumption of being happily married. Her friends thought she had become antisocial. Some even criticized her for withdrawing, but she understood something they didn't. She couldn't become the woman she desired to be while maintaining connections that kept her in the state of seeking. Here's what you must understand about the power of silence. It's not merely the absence of noise, it's the presence of power. When you go into silence about your desires, when you cut contacts with those who know you as you were, you are creating a vacuum in consciousness. And nature abhors a vacuum? Let me introduce you to the 4 stages of silent creation. The first stage is recognition, recognizing that your current contacts and conversations are keeping you bound to your old state. The second stage is withdrawal, quietly removing yourself from environments and relationships that reinforce the old state. The third stage is silence, maintaining complete silence about your transformation. The fourth stage is emergence, naturally revealing your new state once it's fully embodied. Most people fail because they try to skip stages. They recognize the need for change, but maintain all their old contacts. They try to withdraw, but keep announcing their withdrawal. They attempt silence, but keep checking if it's working. Remember, a seed doesn't grow faster because you keep checking on it. Consider Joseph in Scripture. When he received his dream of greatness, did he maintain connections with those who knew him as a slave? No. He was separated from all his old contacts, placed in what appeared to be adverse circumstances. But these very circumstances were preparing him for his transformation. This brings us to what I call the principle of sacred separation. Just as a pregnant woman carries her unborn child in the silence and privacy of her psalm, you must carry your desire in the silence and privacy of your consciousness. Every time you discuss it, every time you maintain contact with those who doubt it, you're exposing your unborn desire to harmful elements. Let me tell you about a businessman who came to me in desperate circumstances. His company was failing, and he had been constantly discussing his problems with everyone who would listen. His entire network consisted of people who knew him as the owner of a struggling business. I shared with him these principles, and he understood them at a deep level. He stopped attending business networking events where people discussed market difficulties. He cut contacts with his commiseration circle, those friends who gathered to share business troubles. He went into complete silence about his company status. Instead of seeking advice, he sought silence. Instead of maintaining connections that reinforced failure, he insulated his consciousness in the assumption of success. To the outside world, he seemed to have become a recluse. But in the silence of his consciousness, a transformation was taking place. What happened next illustrates perfectly what I call the law of silent attraction. Within 3 months, his business began attracting opportunities that had been there all along, but were invisible to him while he was in the state of struggle and constant discussion. You see, when you're constantly talking about your problems, constantly maintaining contacts with those who reinforce your limitations, you're blind to the opportunities surrounding you. Let me share with you the deeper metaphysical reason why silence and cutting contacts are so crucial. In Scripture, we read, "In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength." This is not merely poetic language, it's a precise description of the law of consciousness. When you maintain silence and cut contacts with the old state, you're doing something profound. You're creating what I call a consciousness vacuum. Nature must fill this vacuum, but it can only fill it with whatever corresponds to your assumed state. Consider this principle. Every person in your life is a mirror reflecting back to you your state of consciousness. When you maintain contacts with those who knew you in your old state, you're constantly being reminded of who you were, not who you desire to be. This is why cutting contacts is not an act of rejection, but an act of spiritual wisdom. I remember a teacher who came to me. She had been trying to manifest a position at a prestigious university, but she kept herself surrounded by colleagues who knew her as a struggling substitute teacher. Every conversation, every interaction, every relationship reinforced her current state. She understood these principles, and did something that seemed radical to others. She quietly withdrew from her regular social circles. She stopped attending teachers' gatherings where the conversation centered around limited opportunities. She cut contacts with those who consistently reminded her of her current circumstances. Instead, she went into what I call the silence of assumption. In this silence, free from the constant reinforcement of her old state, she lived completely in the assumption of being a distinguished professor. She didn't tell anyone about this inner transformation. She didn't seek validation. She simply lived in the silence of her fulfilled desire. Here's what you must understand about the power of sacred isolation. When you isolate yourself from influences that contradict your desired state, you're not being antisocial, you're being spiritually wise. Just as a scientist must create a controlled environment for certain experiments, you must create a controlled environment in consciousness for your transformation. Let me introduce you to what I call the 7 seals of silence. The first seal is physical withdrawal, removing yourself from environments that reinforce the old state. The second seal is social disconnection, cutting contacts with those who know you only as you were. The third seal is conversational silence, refusing to discuss your transformation or desire. The fourth seal is mental quietude, silencing the internal dialogue about your past state. The fifth seal is emotional stillness, maintaining calm confidence in your assumption. The sixth seal is spiritual insulation, protecting your consciousness from doubt and disbelief. The seventh seal is complete absorption, living entirely in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Each of these seals must be maintained if you wish to complete your transformation. Breaking even one seal can allow the old state to seep back into your consciousness. Consider the biblical story of the 3 wise men. After they saw the Christ child, they were warned in a dream not to return to Herod. This is a psychological truth. Once you've conceived your new state, seeing the Christ child, you must not return to the old state, Herod. You must take another way home. Now let me share with you what I call the ultimate law of silent achievement. When you understand this law, you'll never again question the power of silence and selective contact. Every great achievement in history, every significant transformation has followed this pattern of silence and sacred isolation. Think of Jesus going into the wilderness for 40 days. Think of Buddha leaving his palace and social circles. Think of every great inventor, artist, or visionary who withdrew from society to birth their creation. This is not coincidence, it's law. Let me tell you about my own experience with this principle. When I first discovered these truths, I didn't announce them to the world. I went into silence. I cut contacts with those who knew me as the old man. In that silence, in that sacred isolation, I experienced what I call the great knowing. Here's what you must do starting tonight. First, make a solemn covenant with yourself, a covenant of silence. No more discussing your desires, your plans, your transformations with anyone. Second, begin what I call the great withdrawal, systematically cutting contacts with those who hold you in your old state. But remember, this is not about physical isolation, it's about state isolation. You're not rejecting people, you're rejecting states of consciousness that no longer serve your transformation. I'll share with you the 5 commands of silent power. Thou shalt not speak of thy desire to anyone. Thou shalt cut all contacts that anchor thee to the old state. Thou shalt live completely in the silence of thy wish fulfilled. Thou shalt not return to check on thy progress. Thou shalt maintain thy silence until thy manifestation is complete. These commands are not suggestions, they are spiritual laws that must be obeyed if you wish to transform your reality. Consider this final principle I call the law of silent emergence. Just as a butterfly emerges from its cocoon, only when its transformation is complete, you should only re-emerge into the world when your new state is fully embodied. Let me tell you about the 3 signs of complete transformation. First, when your new state feels more natural than your old state. Second, when maintaining silence requires no effort. Third, when your old contacts naturally fall away or transform to match your new state. Remember, my dear friends, that silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of power. Cutting contacts is not the absence of relationship. It's the presence of spiritual wisdom. As we conclude tonight's talk, I want to leave you with this final truth. Your world is your consciousness pushed out. Every person, every circumstance, every condition in your life is there because of the state you occupy. When you change your state in silence, when you cut contacts with the old state, you automatically change your world. Go forth now in doubt, not in fear, but in the absolute knowing that as you maintain your silence, as you cut contacts with the old state, your transformation must manifest its law. Remember these words from Scripture. Be still and know that I am God. This stillness, this silence, this sacred isolation, this is your path to transformation. And now, my dear wonderful friends, as we close this evening, take with you this solemn truth: your silence is your power. Your withdrawal from the old state is your pathway to the new. Maintain this silence, maintain this sacred isolation, and watch as your world transforms to match your silent assumption. For in the end, it is not in the noise of the world, but in the silence of your consciousness that all things are created. It is not in maintaining old contacts, but in sacred isolation that transformation occurs. Go now in silence and confidence in the absolute knowing that what you desire is already yours. For in consciousness, all things are possible to him who believes and maintains the silence of that belief. Good night and God bless you all. I wish to share with you the most profound truth about happiness, a truth so simple yet so revolutionary that it will transform your entire existence once you truly grasp it. Happiness is not something to be pursued. It is not something to be found. Happiness is a state of consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. Let me tell you why this understanding is so crucial to your life. Every single thing you experience, every emotion you feel, every circumstance you encounter originates first in your consciousness. Your mind is not merely a recorder of events, it is the creator of all that you experience. When I tell you I can do it, you can do it, we can do it, I am not speaking of mere positive thinking. I am revealing to you the very law by which the universe operates. For in consciousness, in your wonderful human imagination, there is no limitation, no boundary, no impossibility. Consider this profound truth right now. In this very moment, you are choosing your state of consciousness. You are selecting the feeling that dominates your being. And that feeling, that state of consciousness, must externalize itself in your world. For this is law. I tell you from my own experience, and from witnessing countless transformations in others, that when you truly understand that happiness is a choice of consciousness, your entire world transforms. For what you feel with conviction in consciousness must objectify itself in your world. Let me share with you what I mean when I say, I can do it. When I make this statement, I am not speaking from a place of hoping or wishing. I am speaking from a state of knowing. For in consciousness, I have already done it. In consciousness, I have already achieved it. In consciousness, I am already experiencing it. You see, the outer world is nothing more than your inner world objectified. Everything you now see and experience was first only imagined. Therefore, when you say, I can do it, you are not making a statement about future possibility. You are declaring a present reality in consciousness. Think of it this way. When you say you can do it, you are acknowledging the divine power within another. You are recognizing that they too are God in expression, temporarily wearing the mask of humanity. For there is only one consciousness, one God, one I am, expressing itself through all. And when we declare together we can do it, we are acknowledging the ultimate truth, that we are all one consciousness, one divine being, expressing itself through seemingly separate forms. In this understanding lies the secret of true happiness, true achievement, true fulfillment. Let me tell you something about happiness that few understand. Happiness is not dependent on external circumstances. It is not the result of what happens to you. Happiness is a choice you make in consciousness, and that choice shapes everything that follows. I remember a lady who came to me in deep despair. Her circumstances were dire, her future seemed bleak, and she could see no reason for happiness. I told her something that transformed her life. Your consciousness is the only reality. Choose now to enter the state of happiness, regardless of circumstances, and watch as your entire world reshapes itself to match your new state. She did this faithfully, and within weeks, her entire world transformed. Not because external circumstances changed first, but because she changed her state of consciousness first. For this is the law: the outer must conform to the inner. When you say, "I can do it," you must feel the truth of it in your consciousness. Feel the confidence, feel the certainty, feel the natural knowing that comes with true ability. For feeling is the secret, and what you feel with conviction must externalize itself in your world. Consider what happens when you truly understand that happiness is not something to pursue, but a state to assume. In your imagination, which is your real being, you can in one moment shift from despair to delight, from limitation to boundless possibility. This is not fantasy. This is the law of consciousness in operation. When you declare, "I can do it," you must understand that you are not speaking to some future possibility. You are claiming your present power. For in consciousness, where all creation takes place, there is no time. The future you desire exists now in your imagination, waiting to be claimed through your assumption. Let me share with you a principle that will revolutionize your understanding of happiness and achievement. Your consciousness is the only reality. Therefore, when you assume the feeling of happiness, when you live from the state of "I can do it," you are creating the only place where creation can occur. Think about this. Every great achievement in human history began with someone saying, "I can do it." But they didn't just say it with their lips. They felt it with their whole being. They lived from that state of consciousness until it became their reality. This is the secret that all great achievers have known. When you say you can do it to another, you are actually acknowledging the divine power within them. You are recognizing that they too are God in expression. For there is only one consciousness, one God, expressing itself through all of humanity. Your recognition of their power helps to awaken it within them. And when we join together in declaring we can do it, we are acknowledging the ultimate truth, that we are all one consciousness, temporarily wearing different masks. In this understanding lies the secret of true cooperation, true achievement, true happiness. Let me tell you something about the nature of happiness that few understand. Happiness is not a response to events. It is a choice of consciousness that determines how events will unfold. When you choose to live from the state of happiness, the entire universe must rearrange itself to match your assumption. I remember a young man who came to me frustrated with his inability to achieve his goals. He had tried everything, he said, but nothing seemed to work. I told him, stop trying to achieve and start assuming the feeling of the achievement. Live from the end. Feel the happiness of accomplishment now. He looked at me puzzled and asked, but how can I feel happy about something that hasn't happened? I replied, your outer world is merely your inner world objectified. What you establish in consciousness today must manifest in your world tomorrow. This is law. You see, when you say, "I can do it," while feeling defeated, you are contradicting yourself in consciousness. But when you assume the feeling of already having done it, when you live from that state of accomplishment, you are creating in the only place where creation can occur, in consciousness. Let me share with you a secret about the phrase, "You can do it." When you say this to another, you must say it from the consciousness of already seeing them successful. Feel the joy of their achievement. Feel the naturalness of their success. For in consciousness, where all things exist, you are helping to awaken their own divine power. And when we declare we can do it, we are entering into the highest form of creative activity. For in that declaration, properly felt and understood, we are acknowledging our oneness with all creation. We are recognizing that what benefits one benefits all, for we are all one consciousness. Think of happiness not as something to achieve, but as something to accept now. In your imagination, which is your real being, you can this very moment accept the feeling of happiness, regardless of circumstances. And what you accept in consciousness must manifest in your world. Let me tell you of a principle that never fails. The intensity of your feeling determines the speed of its manifestation. When you declare, "I can do it," you must feel it with your whole being. Feel the confidence. Feel the certainty. Feel the natural knowing that comes with true ability. Consider this eternal truth about the power you hold within your own being. When you truly grasp that happiness is your natural state, that achievement is your divine right, you begin to operate from an entirely new level of consciousness. For consciousness is the only reality, and what you establish there must manifest in your world. Let me tell you why the statement, "I can do it," holds such power when properly understood. It is not merely a positive affirmation. It is a declaration of your true nature. For you are God in expression, temporarily wearing the mask of humanity, and to God all things are possible. Think about this. Every time you say, "I can't," you are denying your divine nature. You are choosing to live in a state of consciousness that must by law manifest limitation in your world. But when you declare, "I can do it," and feel the truth of it, you are aligning with your true power. I remember a man who came to me burdened by years of failure. He had convinced himself that happiness and success were for others, not for him. I told him something that changed his life forever. The you that you think you are did not create the world. The you that you really are did create it. You see, when you say you can do it to another, you are speaking to their divine nature, not to their limited human concept of self. You are addressing the God within them, the same God that is within you. For there is only one God, one consciousness expressing itself through all. And when we join together in the understanding of we can do it, we are acknowledging the highest truth, that we are all one being, one consciousness, having multiple experiences. In this recognition lies the secret of true power, true achievement, true happiness. Let me share with you a profound truth about happiness that few understand. Happiness is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens from you. It is a state of consciousness that you choose to occupy. And once chosen with conviction, it must externalize itself in your world. Think of it this way. Every moment of your life, you are selecting a state of consciousness. Every feeling you entertain, every assumption you accept as true, is creating your future. Therefore, when you choose the state of happiness, when you live from the consciousness of I can do it, you are literally creating your tomorrow. I tell you from experience that this law is unfailing. What you feel with conviction in consciousness must objectify itself in your world. This is not theory. This is law. Just as gravity operates without your belief or disbelief, this law of consciousness operates whether you understand it or not. Consider the power that lies within the statement, "You can do it." When you say this to another, truly feeling the truth of it, you are helping to awaken the God within them. You are calling forth their divine nature, their unlimited potential, their true being. And when we declare together we can do it, we are entering into the highest form of creative activity. We are acknowledging our oneness with all creation, our unity with the divine, our inseparable connection with infinite possibility. Let me tell you something about achievement that will transform your understanding forever. Achievement is not something you work towards. It is something you accept in consciousness now. For in consciousness, where all creation takes place, there is no time. The future you desire exists now, waiting to be claimed through your assumption. Think of what I am telling you now. Every moment of frustration, every moment of doubt, every moment of fear is simply a misuse of your imagination. For your imagination, your consciousness, is the very substance from which all reality springs. When you say, "I can do it," you are not making a prediction, you are making a decision in consciousness. Let me share with you a principle that has transformed countless lives. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret of creation. When you feel happy now, when you feel successful now, when you feel capable now, you are creating from the only place where creation is possible, in consciousness. I remember a woman who claimed that happiness always eluded her. She was constantly pursuing it, constantly seeking it in external circumstances. I told her, stop pursuing happiness and start assuming it. For happiness, like every other state, exists now in your consciousness, waiting to be claimed. You see, when you truly understand that you can do it, that others can do it, that we collectively can do it, You are operating from the highest spiritual law. For in consciousness, there is no separation. What you claim for yourself, you claim for all. And what you claim for all, you claim for yourself. Consider this. Every time you entertain a thought of limitation, every time you attempt your idea of I can't, you are denying your divine nature. For the I am within you, which is God himself, knows no limitation. To this infinite being that you really are, all things are possible. Let me tell you something about the power of collective consciousness. When we declare we can do it, we are not merely expressing optimism. We are entering into a spiritual agreement. We are recognizing our oneness with all creation, our unity with the divine, our inseparable connection with infinite possibility. Think about the phrase, you can do it, in a new way. When you say this to another, you are speaking to the God within them. You are acknowledging their divine nature, their unlimited potential, their true being. And in doing so, you help to awaken this realization within them. I tell you now, with absolute certainty, that happiness is not something to be pursued, but something to be assumed. It is not something to be found, but something to be expressed. For happiness, like all states of consciousness, exists now within you, waiting to be claimed. Consider how different your life would be if you truly understood that you could do anything, not from a place of human effort or striving, but from a place of divine knowing. For when you say, I can do it from this place of understanding, you are speaking with the voice of God himself. Let me share with you a secret about manifestation that few understand. The outer world is nothing more than your inner world objectified. Therefore, when you maintain the consciousness of I can do it, when you live from the state of happiness now, your entire world must reshape itself to match your assumption. Think of the power that lies within your consciousness. In it, you can traverse 1,000,000 years in a second. In it, you can experience the end before the beginning. In it, you can be, do, or have anything you desire. For consciousness is the only reality. And what you establish there must externalize itself in your world. And when you say we can do it, you are acknowledging the ultimate truth that we are all one consciousness, one divine being, expressing itself through seemingly separate forms. In this understanding lies the secret of true cooperation, true achievement, true happiness. Let me tell you what happens in consciousness when you truly accept that you can do it. In that moment of acceptance, the entire universe begins to rearrange itself to match your assumption. For consciousness is the only reality. And what you accept as true in consciousness must manifest in your world. Think about this divine principle. When you declare, I can do it, from a place of knowing, not hoping, you are exercising your divine creative power. You are operating not as a mere human being, but as the God you truly are. For there is only one God, one consciousness, expressing itself through all. I want you to grasp this fundamental truth about happiness. It is not a destination to reach, but a decision to make in consciousness. When you understand this, you will stop seeking happiness and start expressing it. For what you express in consciousness must objectify itself in your world. Consider what happens when you say you can do it to another. You are not merely offering encouragement. You are recognizing the God within them. You are speaking to their divine nature, their unlimited potential, their true being. And in that recognition, you help to awaken their own divine power. Let me share with you a principle that never fails. The intensity of your assumption determines the speed of its manifestation. When you live from the state of I can do it, when you maintain the consciousness of happiness now, you are creating with the very substance of God. I remember a man who came to me, defeated by life's circumstances. He had tried everything, he said, to find happiness and success. I told him, stop trying to find what already exists within you. Your consciousness is the only reality. Live from the end, and the end will become your reality. You see, when we join together in declaring we can do it, we are entering into the highest spiritual agreement. We are acknowledging our oneness with all creation, our unity with the divine, our inseparable connection with infinite possibility. Think of it this way. Every achievement in human history began with someone assuming the state of I can do it. They didn't achieve first and then believe. They believed first and then achieved. For this is the law of consciousness. What you accept as true in consciousness must externalize itself. Let me tell you something about the nature of possibility that few understand. In consciousness, there is no such thing as impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. When you truly grasp this, when you live from this understanding, you enter into your divine inheritance as a creative being. Consider the power that lies within your own wonderful human imagination. In it, you can experience the end before the beginning. In it, you can be, do, or have anything you desire. For imagination is God in action, and to imagine is to create. When you say, I can do it, you must feel the truth of it in every fiber of your being. Feel the confidence, feel the certainty, feel the natural knowing that comes with true ability. For feeling is the secret. And what you feel with conviction must externalize itself in your world. And when you declare you can do it to another, you must do so from the consciousness of already seeing them successful. Feel the joy of their achievement. Feel the naturalness of their success. For in consciousness, where all things exist, you are helping to awaken their own divine power. Let me share with you the final and most crucial truth about happiness and achievement. When you feel the reality of I can do it so intensely that your whole being vibrates with its truth, you have planted a seed in the fertile soil of infinite possibility that must come to harvest. Do you know why most people fail to find happiness, fail to achieve their desires? They treat their imaginal acts as something unreal, something separate from life itself. But I tell you now, your imaginal acts are more real than the world you see around you, for they are the very substance from which all reality springs. Think of this eternal truth. Every invention, every discovery, every achievement in human history began in someone's imagination. Everything that now exists in your world was once only imagined. Therefore, what you imagine with feeling has a divine right to manifest. For this is the way of creation itself. I tell you with absolute certainty that if you will faithfully apply this law, if you will maintain the consciousness of I can do it, if you will live from the state of happiness now, your whole world must reshape itself to match your assumption. This is not hope, this is law. Remember these final words I share with you tonight. You are not some tiny being struggling against the world. You are the operant power. You are the creator of your reality. Your consciousness, properly directed, contains within it the power to reshape universes. When you declare we can do it, understand that you are speaking with the voice of the divine itself. For in consciousness, there is no separation. What you claim for yourself, you claim for all. And what you claim for all, you claim for yourself. Tonight, when you leave this place, do so with the knowledge that you are entering into the most holy of holies, your own consciousness. Feel the reality of your desires with such intensity that the physical world seems pale in comparison to what you have established in consciousness. For in consciousness, properly directed, even the impossible must yield to your assumption. The whole vast world will conspire to make your assumption a reality. For this is the eternal law of consciousness. What you feel as real in consciousness must externalize itself in your world. I leave you with this final truth. The power is within you. The kingdom is within you. Your consciousness used with understanding and feeling is more powerful than 1,000 years of toil. For in consciousness, you are exercising your divine right as a creative being. Go forth now with this knowledge. Apply this law. Test it. Prove it in the laboratory of your own life. For I tell you with absolute authority that even the impossible will manifest when you understand and apply the power of your own wonderful human imagination. Let this be your practice from this moment forward. Live from the state of I can do it. Maintain the consciousness of happiness. Feel the reality of your desires fulfilled. For when you do this, you are doing the work you were created to do. You are consciously creating your reality. Remember, the world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, in consciousness, you are literally realigning the entire universe according to rest. There is no power outside of you that can withstand what you establish in consciousness. For consciousness is the only reality, and you are that consciousness. And now, knowing this truth, understanding this law, go forth and create the life you desire. For you hold within you the power to manifest even the impossible. This is the truth. This is the law. This is your divine inheritance. The end is where we begin. The completion is where we start. Therefore, life from the end, dwelling in the assumption that your desires are already fulfilled. For when you do this, you are operating in accordance with the highest law of creation, and nothing can prevent your assumption from becoming your reality. So I say to you, finally, take this knowledge, use it wisely, fill your consciousness with the feeling of your wishes fulfilled, and watch as the whole vast world reshapes itself to match what you have established in consciousness. For this is the way of creation, this is the law of assumption, and this is your power as a divine created being. Let us begin by understanding that the world you see around you, the circumstances of your life, and the experiences you encounter daily are nothing more than the outward manifestation of your inner conversations. Yes, you heard that correctly, your inner conversations. The way you speak to yourself, the thoughts you entertain, and the beliefs you hold dear are the very architects of your reality. Many of you may find this concept challenging to grasp at first. You may ask, Neville, how can my inner dialogue shape my external world? To this I say, open your minds and hearts to the truth that has been hidden in plain sight since the beginning of time. You are not merely a passive observer of life, but the active creator of your destiny. Consider for a moment the power of your imagination. It is the most magnificent gift bestowed upon humanity. Yet so few truly understand its potential. Your imagination is not some fanciful daydreaming tool. It is the very workshop wherein you forge the reality you desire. When you engage in inner conversations that align with your deepest desires, you are, in essence, planting the seeds of your future experiences. Now let us delve deeper into the art of speaking to yourself in a way that attracts all you desire. The first step is to recognize that your consciousness is the only reality. All that you perceive in the outer world is but a shadow, a reflection of your inner state of being. Therefore, to change your world, you must first change your consciousness. Begin by identifying the desire that burns within your heart. What is it that you truly want to experience in this life? Is it abundance, love, success, or perhaps a sense of profound inner peace? Whatever it may be, hold that desire in your mind's eye and become the focal point of your inner conversations. Once you have clarity on your desire, you must learn to speak to yourself as though your wish has already been fulfilled. This, my friends, is the crux of the matter. Your inner conversations must reflect the state of having already attained your desire, not the state of wanting or lacking. For instance, if your desire is financial abundance, your inner dialogue should not be, I wish I had more money, or when will I ever be financially secure? Such conversations only reinforce the state of lack and want. Instead, speak to yourself in this way. I am so grateful for the abundance that flows into my life effortlessly. My financial security brings me peace and allows me to bless others. Do you see the difference? In the first instance, you are speaking from a place of absence, whereas in the second, you are embodying the consciousness of already having received your desire. This shift in your inner conversation is nothing short of miraculous in its effects. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Neville, isn't this just self-deception? How can I speak of having something when my current reality shows me otherwise? To this, I say you must understand the true nature of time and reality. The future is not some distant point you are moving towards. It is a present possibility you are choosing now through your state of consciousness. When you engage in these new inner conversations, you are not denying your present circumstances. Rather, you are choosing to align your consciousness with the version of reality you wish to experience. Remember, your outer world must conform to your inner conversations. It has no choice in the matter. This is law. Let me share with you a personal experience to illustrate this point. There was a time when I desired to travel to Barbados, my homeland, but lacked the means to do so. Instead of dwelling on my inability to make the journey, I began to engage in inner conversations as though I were already there. I would walk the familiar streets in my imagination, feel the warm Caribbean breeze on my skin, and hear the voices of loved ones welcoming me home. I persisted in this inner conversation, speaking to myself as though my desire had already been fulfilled. And do you know what happened? Within a matter of weeks, against all apparent odds, I received an invitation from my family, complete with the means to make the journey. The outer world had no choice but to reshape itself to match my inner conversation. This, my dear friends, is the power that lies within you. It is not reserved for a select few. It is your birthright as a creative being. You have been given dominion over all things through your imagination and your ability to choose your inner conversations. Now let us address an important aspect of this practice: persistence. Changing your inner conversations is not a matter of repeating affirmations a few times and then wondering why your world hasn't transformed overnight. It requires a complete revision of your habitual thought patterns and the way you speak to yourself throughout your day. You must persist in your new inner conversations until they become your natural way of thinking. This may take days, weeks, or even months, depending on how deeply ingrained your old patterns of thought are. But I assure you, the rewards of this practice are beyond measure. As you persist in speaking to yourself in alignment with your desires, you will begin to notice subtle shifts in your outer world. Opportunities may arise that were not there before. People may respond to you differently. You may find yourself inspired to take actions that lead you closer to the fulfillment of your desire. These are all signs that your new inner conversations are taking root and beginning to reshape your reality. Do not be discouraged if the full manifestation of your desire does not appear immediately. Remember, the outer world may take time to fully reflect your inner changes, but be assured that it must and will conform to your new state of consciousness. Another crucial aspect of speaking to yourself in this way is the feeling associated with your inner conversations. It is not enough to merely repeat words in your mind. You must feel the reality of what you are saying. Emotion is the secret ingredient that gives life to your inner conversations and accelerates their manifestation in the outer world. When you speak to yourself as though your desire is fulfilled, allow yourself to feel the joy, the gratitude, the sense of accomplishment that would accompany the realization of your wish. These feelings are the prayer, the bridge between your inner world and the outer reality you seek to create. Let me emphasize this point: feeling is the secret. Your emotions are the language of your subconscious mind, and it is through your subconscious that the creative power within you operates. When you combine your carefully chosen inner conversations with the corresponding emotions, you create an irresistible force that must externalize itself in your world. Now, some of you may be wondering about the role of action in this process. Should you simply engage in these inner conversations and wait for your world to change? The answer is both yes and no. Yes, in the sense that your primary focus should be on maintaining the consciousness of your wish fulfilled through your inner conversations. And no, because inspired action is often a natural consequence of this new state of consciousness. As you persist in speaking to yourself in alignment with your desires, you may find yourself naturally inclined to take certain actions. These actions will not feel forced or burdensome. They will arise spontaneously from your new state of being. Trust these impulses and act upon them, for they are the bridge between your inner world and your outer reality. Remember, the actions themselves do not create your desire. They are simply the means through which your desire manifests. The true creative power lies in your consciousness, in the way you speak to yourself, and the state of being you choose to embody. Let us now address a common concern that many face when beginning this practice: the apparent contradiction between their inner conversations and their current circumstances. It is natural for doubt to arise when you look at your world and see no evidence of your desire. But I urge you, do not give in to these doubts. Your current circumstances are nothing more than the fruit of your past thoughts and inner conversations. They have no power to dictate your future unless you grant them that power through your continued attention and belief. Instead of being swayed by what your senses show you, remain faithful to your inner conversations that align with your desire. This faithfulness to your inner conversations, despite contradictory evidence in the outer world, is what I call living in the end. It is the art of inhabiting the state of consciousness where your wish is already fulfilled, regardless of appearances. This unwavering faith in the reality of your inner world is what transforms it into your outer experience. As you practice speaking to yourself in this new way, you may encounter resistance from your habitual patterns of thought. Old doubts and fears may surface, attempting to pull you back into your former state of consciousness. When this happens, do not fight against these thoughts or bear at yourself for having them. Instead, gently but firmly return to your new inner conversations. Think of it as training a puppy. When the puppy wanders off, you don't punish it. You simply bring it back to where you want it to be. Treat your mind with the same patience and persistence. Each time you catch yourself engaging in inner talk that contradicts your desire, lovingly guide your thoughts back to the conversations that align with your wish fulfilled. This practice of vigilance over your inner conversations is not about forcing positive thinking or suppressing negative emotions. It is about consciously choosing the state of consciousness you wish to inhabit. It is about recognizing your power as the operant power in your reality and using that power wisely through your chosen inner conversations. As you become more adept at maintaining these new inner conversations, you will find that your outer world begins to mirror your inner state with increasing fidelity. The people in your life may respond to you differently, reflecting back to you the new concept you hold of yourself. Circumstances may align in ways that support the fulfillment of your desire. Synchronicities may occur that seem almost magical in their perfect timing. These outer changes are not coincidences or strokes of luck. They are the natural and inevitable result of your shifted consciousness made manifest through your persistent inner conversations. Your world has no choice but to reflect back to you the state you have chosen to occupy in your imagination. Now let us address an important point: the nature of time in relation to the manifestation of your desires. In the world of Caesar, time appears to be a linear progression from past to future. But in the realm of imagination, where all creation takes place, time is fluid and malleable. When you engage in inner conversations that align with your desire, you are, in essence, collapsing time. You are bringing the future state you desire into your present moment experience. This is why it is so crucial to speak to yourself as to implique yourself, as though his whole wish is already fulfilled, not as something that will happen in some distant future. By doing so, you are not merely affirming a future possibility, you are claiming a present reality in your consciousness. And it is this present reality in consciousness that becomes the seed of your future experience in the world of Caesar. This understanding of time and consciousness liberates you from the tyranny of waiting. You no longer need to anxiously anticipate the fulfillment of your desire, for in your inner conversations, it is already accomplished. This state of calm assurance, of knowing that what you desire is already yours in consciousness, is incredibly powerful in accelerating the manifestation of your desire in the outer world. As you practice speaking to yourself in this new way, you may find that your entire perception of reality begins to shift. You may start to see the world not as a solid, unchangeable entity, but as a fluid, responsive mirror of your own consciousness. This shift in perception is profoundly liberating, for it places the power to shape your life experience firmly in your own hands. You begin to understand that every person and every circumstance in your life is there to play a role in the grand drama of your consciousness. They are not obstacles to be overcome or separate entities acting independently of your desires. Rather, they are aspects of yourself, reflections of your inner state, perfectly positioned to aid in the manifestation of your reality. This understanding leads to a profound sense of peace and empowerment. No longer do you see yourself as a victim of circumstances or at the mercy of external forces. Instead, you recognize yourself as the author of your life story, crafting your reality through the power of your inner conversations. As you continue to speak to yourself in alignment with your desires, you may notice another interesting phenomenon. Your desires themselves may begin to evolve and refine. As you experience the fulfillment of one desire, you may find that new, higher aspirations take its place. This is the natural progression of spiritual growth and expansion. Do not be alarmed by this evolution of your desires. It is a sign that you are aligning more closely with your true self, with the infinite potential that lies within you. Continue to apply the same principle of inner conversation to these new desires, always speaking to yourself from the state of wish fulfilled. Now let us address a question that may have arisen in your minds. What about the desires of others? How do my inner conversations affect those around me? This is a profound inquiry that touches upon the interconnected nature of consciousness. Remember, the entire world you perceive is a reflection of your own consciousness. Therefore, the people in your life with their apparent separate desires and wills are ultimately playing roles in the drama of your consciousness. As you shift your inner conversations and thereby your state of being, you will find that others naturally adjust to reflect your new state. This does not mean you are controlling or manipulating others. Rather, you are experiencing different aspects of yourself, different states of consciousness, played out in the people and circumstances of your life. As you speak to yourself in new ways, embodying the consciousness of your wish fulfilled, you will find that others naturally conform to support this new state. This understanding releases you from any sense of guilt or fear about imposing your will on others. You are not changing them. You are changing yourself. And as you change your experience of the entire world, including the people in it, changes to match your new state of consciousness. Let us now explore another crucial aspect of speaking to yourself in a way that attracts all you desire: gratitude. Gratitude is not merely a polite social convention. It is a powerful creative force. When you speak to yourself with gratitude, as though you have already received your heart's desire, you align yourself with the very frequency of fulfillment. Incorporate gratitude into your inner conversations, not as a technique to get what you want, but as a genuine expression of appreciation for what you know is already yours in consciousness. Speak to yourself with phrases like, "I am so thankful for the abundance that flows into my life effortlessly," or "I am grateful for the perfect health and vitality I enjoy every day." This attitude of gratitude creates a receptive state of consciousness, opening you up to receive the good that is already yours. It aligns you with the natural flow of life's abundance and accelerates the manifestation of your desires in the outer world. As you practice speaking to yourself in this new way with gratitude and the assumption of your wish fulfilled, you may encounter moments of doubt or impatience. This is natural, especially when your outer world has not yet fully conformed to your new inner state. In these moments, it is crucial to remember that your inner conversations are the cause and the outer world is the effect. Do not make the mistake of looking to the outer world for evidence before you believe in the reality of your inner conversations. This is backwards and will only perpetuate the old state you are seeking to change. Instead, persist in your new inner conversations regardless of appearances. Your faith in the reality of your inner world is what gives it the power to reshape your outer experience. Think of it this way. Your inner conversations are like seeds planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. Just as a gardener doesn't dig up the seeds every day to check if they're growing, you must not constantly question or doubt the efficacy of your inner conversations. Trust in the law of your own being, knowing that what you plant in consciousness must inevitably bear fruit in your experience. This brings us to another important point, the role of detachment in the process of manifestation. While it may seem paradoxical, cultivating a sense of detachment from the outcome can actually accelerate the realization of your desire. This detachment comes from the deep knowing that what you desire is already yours in consciousness. When you truly embody the state of your wish fulfilled in your inner conversations, you no longer feel the anxious need to make it happen. You are able to relax into the certainty that your outer world must and will conform to your inner state. This relaxation, this letting go, allows the creative forces of the universe to work on your behalf without the interference of doubt or anxiety. Incorporate this sense of relaxed detachment into your inner conversations. Speak to yourself as someone who is calmly certain of their good, not as someone desperately trying to make something happen. This calm assurance is incredibly powerful in bringing about the manifestation of your desires. As you continue to practice speaking to yourself in this new way, you may find that your entire concept of who you are begins to shift. You start to recognize yourself not as a limited, physical being subject to the whims of fate, but as a spiritual being with infinite potential, crafting your reality through the power of your consciousness. This expanded sense of self brings with it a profound sense of responsibility. You begin to realize that every thought, every inner conversation is a creative act. This realization may cause you to become more mindful of the way you speak to yourself, not out of fear, but out of a deep respect for your creative power. Embrace this responsibility with joy, knowing that it comes hand in hand with the power to shape your life according to your highest aspirations. Let your inner conversations reflect the best of who you are and who you wish to become. Speak to yourself as the person who has already achieved all that you desire, who embodies all the qualities you admire. As you do this, you may find that your desires themselves begin to elevate. No longer content with merely accumulating material possessions or achieving worldly success, you may find yourself drawn to higher aspirations. Your inner conversations may begin to reflect a desire for spiritual growth, for making a positive impact on the world, for expressing your unique gifts in service to others. This evolution of your desires is a natural part of the journey of consciousness. As you experience the fulfillment of your initial desires, you naturally expand into greater expressions of your true self. Embrace this growth and continue to apply the principle of speaking to yourself from the state of wish fulfilled, no matter how lofty your aspirations may become. As we draw this discussion to a close, I want to emphasize once more the incredible power that lies within you. The way you speak to yourself, the inner conversations you entertain, are the very fabric from which your reality is woven. Choose these conversations wisely with intention and awareness, knowing that they are shaping your world in every moment. Remember, persistence is key. The transformation of your outer world may not happen overnight, but if you remain faithful to your new inner conversations, it must and will occur. Trust in the law of your own being, in the creative power of your consciousness, and know that as you speak to yourself in alignment with your desires, you are setting in motion forces that will move heaven and earth to bring about their fulfillment. Go forth now, my dear friends, and begin to speak to yourself in this new way. Embrace the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. Live from the end and watching wonder as your world transforms to match your inner state. You are the operant power in your reality, the author of your life story. Speak to yourself accordingly and attract all that you desire.